He had not told any of them to move. This was the thing he sat with during the second week of the Noble Council session, when the dispatches began arriving in the specific pattern that told him the network was doing something he had not instructed it to do. He read each letter carefully, tracking not just the content, but the timing, the source, the specific reasoning each contact used for the action they were taking. Every letter had its own logic. Every action had its own justification. None of them referenced each other. None of them referenced him. The Tauran Network's capital correspondent, his contact at the Small Factors Exchange who handled routine commodity intelligence, had noted, in the course of an entirely normal dispatch about grain futures, that 3 Church of Light regional assessment officials had been seen entering the Noble Council Annex through a servant's entrance on consecutive mornings during the current session. He had not asked her to note this. She had noted it because she was a thorough correspondent who flagged unusual movement in the capital's administrative district as a matter of professional habit. She had been doing this for 6 years. The Commission's Northern Regional Investigator, the individual one, not the office, had sent a letter to a Commission colleague in the capital that was a routine administrative inquiry about something entirely unrelated. He had also included, because he was a careful person with an orderly mind, and he wanted the record to be complete, a note that he had identified 2 additional Church of Light assessment visits in the border provinces that occurred in the 6 months before the 7 anomalous Royal Army Command appointments. He was not making an accusation. He was completing a record. He had copied the inquiry to the Commission's Capital Board Secretary as a matter of procedure. Alden Vane had sent a letter to 3 other compact lords. Not to Kael. He had sent it to Brennan, Ketterly, and Lady Merrick in her capacity as Lord Merrick's representative. The letter described, with Alden Vane's characteristic precision, the Compact's current understanding of the Ironmark Declaration's timing and the connections between the pre-declaration Ironmark diplomatic activity and the Church of Light's regional administrative presence in the border corridor. Alden Vane had been building this picture since Kael's first request for unit composition history. He had reached his own conclusions. He had communicated them to the people he thought should have them. Ketterly had separately written to 2 Noble Council members from the western provinces who were not compact lords, but who were known to Ketterly as capable political readers. He had written to say that the Compact's intelligence operations on the eastern frontier had, over the past 3 years, identified patterns of institutional interference in frontier security that the Noble Council's current session should understand before voting on any expansion of Crown Emergency Authority. He had attached summaries. He had sent his own work. Lady Merrick had apparently requested an audience with Commissioner Vare directly, through her own contacts, to ask about the Commission's current investigation status. She had not asked Kael's permission to do this. She did not need his permission. She was a Noble Council member with standing to inquire about an active Commission investigation. He read each of these separately over 3 days as they arrived in their individual dispatches. Then he sat at the main table and held the shape of what was happening. He had spent 9 years building contacts who were competent at their jobs, who were positioned in useful places, who had their own professional reasons to notice things and communicate what they noticed to appropriate parties. He had not needed to instruct them to act. He had needed to give them information that made action sensible within their own professional context. When the information matured, when the thing they were each aware of became connected to a thing that was publicly visible and significant, they moved, each in their own direction, for their own reasons. The order would see the effects. They would not see the source. Someone in the Noble Council Annex was now aware that 3 church officials were present for the session in a non-official capacity. Someone in the Commission's Capital Board would receive a letter noting the connection between the assessment visits and the command appointments. The Compact's combined intelligence picture was now in the hands of 3 Noble Council members who had not previously had it. Commissioner Vare was being asked questions that she would need to answer. Pressure. From 9 different directions. Individually motivated. Collectively convergent. He wrote in the private document, "The network is doing what networks do when they have been built correctly. I did not activate it. It activated." Then he set this down and picked up the pooled data from the morning cycle. He turned 17 on the 4th day of March, year 12. He noticed this because Gareth came to the main table at mid-morning with 2 cups of the strong dark tea from the southern trading posts, the kind they had only occasionally because the supply chain for it from Kael was irregular, and set one in front of Kael without comment. Kael looked at it and then looked at Gareth. Gareth said, "The garrison has a tradition." He said, "Does it?" Gareth said, "When a commanding officer turns 17, they get a cup of the good tea." He sat down across the table. "It predates you." He looked at the cup. He said, "I don't think that's a real tradition." Gareth said, "It is now." He drank the tea. It was, as it always was, better than anything else in the barony. Outside, the southern corridor was quiet. The pool data had been running clean for 36 days. Aldrich was at the mine. The garrison was at training. The commission maintenance team had been gone for 3 weeks. Veth was in Keth domain somewhere, holding the first Kael channel documents in its possession and waiting for the moment to pass them to Lord Keth. He was 17 years old, and he commanded the eastern frontier of a kingdom at war, and he had a cup of good tea and Gareth sitting across the table not making a performance of any of it. He filed this. He did not examine it. He said, "The session is in its 2nd week." Gareth said, "Yes." He said, "Davin's last dispatch was 4 days ago." The session was still debating the emergency powers framework. They hadn't reached a vote. The commission case is in formal record. Seraphine is presenting. Gareth said, "What do you expect the vote to be?" He said, "I expect a modified authorization." Not the unlimited framework the speech was building toward. The commission's case has complicated that enough to make unlimited authorization politically untenable. But something. An expanded emergency military authority with oversight conditions. The conditions will be designed to look real and function nominally. Gareth said, "And Caelan." He said, "Will be given a command position in whatever theater is least strategically significant." He paused. "Which is what I would do if I were managing this from the king's position. Keep him visible, keep him occupied, keep him away from anything that gives him political capital." Gareth looked at him over the rim of his cup. He said, "The king is smarter than Varin." He said, "Considerably. But he's constrained by the same thing that always constrains intelligence that has an institutional source. If he deviates too visibly from what the order needs, the support evaporates. He's not free to be as intelligent as he actually is." Gareth said, "That's almost a mercy." He said, "Almost." He set down the cup. He said, "The Northern Front." Gareth, the reports that came from your contacts. The officers who confirmed the managed non-performance. Do either of them have current access to the command structure? Gareth said, "One retired. One is working as a military supplier at the northern staging point. Legitimate business, not positioned." A pause. "But positioned could be arranged." He said, "Not yet. The positioning would be visible as a move at this stage. When we need the Northern Command access, we'll need to build it in a way that doesn't flag." He thought. "Hold the contact. Note the positioning option." Gareth said, "Done." He went back to the pool data. The southern corridor held its quiet. Whatever was happening in the capital, the session, the vote, the commission's case, the 9 directions of pressure from his network, was happening without him and 11 days away by courier. He did his job. In the capital, the Noble Council session's 3rd week began. He knew this because Davin's dispatch arrived 3 days later, 2 sentences, session in 3rd week. Emergency authorization framework, still in debate. Commission testimony presented to full council yesterday. He sat with commission testimony presented to full council yesterday. Seraphine had made it to the floor. He went back to work. The southern corridor was quiet. The network was moving. He was 17. The Noble Council session produced, in its 4th week, a modified emergency military authorization. He learned the terms through Seraphine's letter, which arrived 11 days after she wrote it, which meant she had written it the day after the vote. She had written it quickly. The letter was 3 pages where her correspondence usually ran to 5 or 6, and the handwriting was the specific compressed form she used when she had more to say than the time allowed. The terms, expanded Crown authority over Royal Army command appointments during the period of active military emergency. A Crown-appointed Military Oversight Council, 5 members, 2 appointed by the Noble Council, 3 by the King. Commission investigation authority preserved, with a provision requiring the Commission to file quarterly reports to the Oversight Council. Emergency powers framework of limited scope and defined duration, with the session to reconvene in 6 months to review status. She had written at the bottom of the second page, in a small and distinct line, the limited scope and defined duration are real constraints, not nominal ones. We fought for them. The quarterly commission reports to the Oversight Council are a two-edged provision. It gives the Crown visibility into the investigation, but it also creates a formal record trail that cannot be quietly suppressed. I chose this outcome because it was the best achievable one. You will disagree with parts of it. Read the attached analysis first. The analysis was the 3rd page. He read it twice. She was right on every point. The constraints were real. The Commission's preserved authority was the essential thing. The oversight reporting was a trade he would have made in her position. The quarterly report provision was the specific kind of legal architecture that looked like a concession and functioned as a structural guarantee. You could not suppress information that was required to be formally delivered to a mixed council. He wrote her a short letter in response. The analysis is correct. The oversight provision is the right trade. The session reconvening in 6 months is the next target. When does the transcript reach the full Noble Council record? He sealed it and dispatched it in the afternoon courier. 2 days later, Lord Aldenvane's rider arrived at the barony with a personal letter. Aldenvane wrote, in the specific prose of someone who had thought carefully about what he was committing to parchment, the Compact's combined command structure has, since the major assault of last December, been operating under your operational direction as a practical matter. I believe it is time to formalize what is already true. The events of the past 6 months, the border seal investigation, the arrest of Lord Burin, the intelligence picture you have built and shared with the Compact's remaining lords, constitute grounds for a formal designation of command authority that the Compact's charter allows in circumstances of active frontier security threat. I have spoken with Ketterly and with Lady Merrick on behalf of Lord Merrick. We are in agreement. Brennan has not responded yet, but I expect he will reach the same conclusion on his own terms. I propose a brief meeting by correspondence if travel is impractical to formalize the structure. He read this sitting at the main table. Gareth was in the training yard, visible through the window. The Compact's charter allowed for a designated commanding officer in circumstances of active frontier security threat. He had known this provision existed since year 8. He had been waiting for the conditions under which it could be invoked without appearing to be a power grab. The conditions were not something he had manufactured. Aldenvane had reached the conclusion independently. He wrote back the same afternoon, correspondence is appropriate at this stage. I have no difficulty traveling to Aldenvane Keep for a meeting, but the frontier requires presence during the current Ironmark situation. And a letter exchange produces a written record that will be useful for the Compact's formal documentation. I accept the designation. He paused. He wrote, I am aware of what I am accepting. The Compact's 4 remaining lords, Aldenvane, Brennan, Ketterly, and Lord Merrick, have contributed resources, intelligence, and personnel to the frontier structure for 3 years on the basis of mutual interest. My acceptance of the designation does not alter that basis. What I can offer in return for the formal structure is what I have always offered, complete information sharing, decisions made with full consideration of each lord's position and constraints, and an absolute commitment to the Compact's legitimate interests even in conditions where they conflict with other pressures. He sealed the letter. Brennan's rider arrived 3 days after Aldenvane's, with a 4-page letter that was, as predicted, 1 page of resistance, 1 page of assessment, 1 page of acceptance, and 1 page of conditions. The conditions were reasonable. He wrote back accepting all of them. Ketterly's response was 2 lines. Aldenvane is right. The structure should reflect reality. K. Lady Merrick's letter was 7 pages. He wrote a 7-page response. By mid-March year 12, the Eastern Frontier Compact had a designated commanding officer for the first time in its existence. The combined forces of the 4 remaining lords, militia levies, compact garrison fighters, gold-capable officers, supply trains, intelligence networks, came under his operational command as a formal matter rather than the practical matter it had already been. He sat with the documentation on the evening of the designation and tried to calculate the number of fighters. Aldenvain's contribution: 8,000 Northern Province Militia, 2 gold-capable officers. Brennan's contribution: 12,000 Southern Province Militia, the militia captains who had been at the frontier since year 10, 3 gold-capable officers. Ketterly's contribution: 9,000 Western Province Militia, the gold-capable aides who had served at the frontier during the major assault. Merrick's contribution: 6,000 Eastern Province Militia, 1 gold-capable officer. Frontier Garrison: 3,000, including the specialized Border Patrol contingent. His own resources: the Barony's direct fighters, Gareth. He rounded to 40,000. The rounding was conservative. He had 40,000 fighters. He was 17 years old. He went to find Gareth in the training yard. Gareth was running a coordination exercise with the Frontier Garrison and 2 of Brennan's militia captains, the complex terrain movement scenario he had been developing since the major assault in year 11. The specific scenario that used the eye's ambient coverage as a model for coordinated movement without verbal command. It was a teaching exercise designed to train fighters to operate in conditions where their commander had significantly better situational awareness than they did. He watched from the yard's edge until Gareth called the end of the session. Gareth walked over. He said, "The designation is complete. The combined compact force is approximately 40,000. Gareth looked at him. He said, "I know." He said, "The training structure you've been building, the coordination exercises, they apply to the combined force." Gareth said, "That's why I've been building them." He said, "We'll need to run them with the militia captains from all 4 Lord contributions, not just Brennan's." Gareth said, "I know." He looked at Kael. "The Ironmark front." He said, "The Ironmark front." They stood in the training yard. It was mid-March, still cold, the specific cold of the frontier that found the gap between collar and jaw even in the afternoon sun. The garrison's maintenance cycle continued in the background, the routine sound of a place that was doing what it was supposed to do. He said, "I've been watching the Northern Front reports for 3 weeks. The Royal Army is not holding the passes. It's holding them badly enough to sustain the engagement without creating a decisive failure that would require emergency response, but the Ironmark force is gaining ground incrementally." He looked at the training yard. The managed non-performance is a strategy. The question is how long the Ironmark force will sustain an incremental campaign before they commit to a decisive push. Gareth said, "They're not in a hurry either." He said, "No." Which tells me someone in the Ironmark command also has an interest in the engagement lasting through the Noble Council session. Gareth said, "The orders reach." He said, "Has to be. The coordination is too precise to be coincidence. Ironmark declares at exactly the right time. The Royal Army underperforms at exactly the right rate. The incursion from the south sustains at exactly the right level to maintain the 3-front picture." He paused. "But none of it tips into collapse. Because collapse would force an emergency response that might produce unexpected outcomes. They want sustained pressure, not catastrophe." Gareth said, "So the window for a decisive Ironmark push." He said, "Probably after the Noble Council session reconvenes in 6 months. If the emergency authorization is maintained and the Ironmark engagement continues, more authority, more justification, another extension. They need the engagement to be present, not concluded." Gareth was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "And if we conclude it?" He said, "Then the order loses the Northern Front as a pressure mechanism. Which is why I'm thinking about the Northern Front." Gareth looked at him. He said, "Not yet. We're not ready yet. But I'm thinking about it." He went back to the main table. The pool data from the morning's cycle needed reviewing. The afternoon courier from Aldenvain's network would arrive in an hour. The frontier held. The compact was his. The Northern Front was a problem he was beginning to see the shape of. He worked. The letter from Caelan arrived on a Thursday in late March, routed through Torrens Capital Factor and then through the Eastern Road System in the ordinary disguise of compact administrative correspondence. He recognized the handwriting before he recognized the seal. He had seen it twice. on documents at the Commission building 3 years ago when Seraphine had introduced him to the prince's administrative function in the context of the capital intelligence work. The writing was small, precise, slightly cramped in the way of someone who had learned to write in quantity at an early age and had compressed the strokes to fit more onto the page. The letter was 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph reported, in the tone of someone who had decided to simply state the fact and not perform a reaction to it, that Prince Caelan had formally requested military command authority from his brother, the newly crowned King Aldrich II, citing the ongoing Ironmark engagement and the need for experienced command presence across multiple fronts. The request had been made publicly in the presence of the Noble Council's military subcommittee, with full documentation of Caelan's prior administrative experience in frontier security coordination. The second paragraph reported the king's response. A command appointment had been granted. Prince Caelan would serve as commanding officer of the Southern Highlands Defensive Reserve, a force of approximately 3,000 tasked with monitoring the Valdres-Selene border for any secondary engagement risk from Selene's trade routes in response to the Ironmark conflict. The Southern Highlands had been quiet for 11 years. The Selene border had no active threat profile. The assignment was visibly a management decision rather than a military one. The third paragraph was a single sentence. I understand what this is. The fourth paragraph was also a sentence. What do you need from me? He read the letter 3 times. Not for content. The content was clear on the first reading. For tone. The specific tone of someone who had assessed their situation completely and had decided that the useful response was to offer rather than to perform. He put the letter down on the main table. He had been thinking about Caelan's position for 6 months, since the coronation speech analysis had made the king's strategy visible. The strategy was not complicated. Keep Caelan occupied and visible, assign him to situations where his competence could not produce outcomes with political capital, prevent the accumulation of the specific combination of standing army command and noble council support that would make him viable as an alternative to the current king. The Southern Highlands assignment was, from this position, precisely correct. 3,000 soldiers in a quiet theater with no operational activity, reporting to a command structure that was now under the Crown's expanded emergency authority. Caelan would be visible, present at war, serving the kingdom. He would have no actual power. The fourth paragraph was, what do you need from me? He sat with this for most of the afternoon. What he needed from Caelan was not what any of the obvious answers were. He did not need Caelan's military force. 3,000 soldiers in the Southern Highlands were not strategically significant. He did not need Caelan's noble council connections. Those connections would be managed and monitored by the king's faction once Caelan's assignment was public. He did not need Caelan to do anything visible. What he needed was the legal existence of an alternative institutional structure. He had found the provision 18 months ago while working through the Commission's Capital Library access in the course of the cross-referencing project that was tracking the Order's legal precedent strategy. It had appeared in an appendix to the Kingdom's founding charter, a 12-line provision in a section titled Continuity of Lawful Command in Conditions of Primary Command Impairment, which described a circumstance under which alternate command structures could be established with legitimate legal standing when the primary command authority was compromised by demonstrated conflict of interest or enemy action. The provision had been written into the founding charter by the original Noble Council after a specific historical incident, a century-old succession crisis in which the sitting king had been captured and held by the enemy while simultaneously the crown prince was incapacitated, leaving the kingdom with no recognized command authority. It had never been invoked. It had also never been repealed. Under the provision, a wartime advisory council could be established by any 3 noble council members of full standing, with the endorsement of a recognized military command, when the primary command authority was under demonstrated conflict of interest. The council's authority was limited and specific: military strategic advice, emergency resource allocation, and the formal recording of alternative military orders in the Noble Council's official record. It was not a parallel government. It was a legal mechanism for an alternative chain of command to exist in the record. The mechanism required 3 noble council members of standing, a recognized military command's endorsement, and a member of the royal family present as the council's nominal chair to give it constitutional legitimacy. Caelan was a member of the royal family. He wrote back. The letter was 5 pages. He wrote it carefully, knowing that Caelan was intelligent enough not to need every step explained, but that the specific legal architecture required explanation that could not be assumed. He described the provision. He described what it required. He described what it could accomplish. Not a coup, not a rebellion, not a formal challenge to the king's authority. A legal structure that could, when conditions required it, present the kingdom with a constitutionally grounded alternative to whatever the king's emergency authority produced. He wrote, "This requires nothing visible from you at present. Your assignment to the Southern Highlands is the right position, not because the Highlands need you, but because the Highlands will give you 3 months without significant political exposure. Use those months to build the compact of the 3 noble council members. I will tell you which 3. Do not contact them directly through any channel that passes through capital official records. Use the Torrent Factor network. The routing I've sent through this letter's return address will reach them." He described the 3 noble council members, Aldenvane, who had the northern provincial standing and had demonstrated his picture of the order's operations, a western province lord whom Kael had been tracking for 2 years as someone whose assessment of the succession crisis was more clear-eyed than his public position suggested, and a compact-adjacent noble council member who had been one of Lady Merrick's closest political relationships for 15 years and who would follow Lady Merrick's read of the situation. He wrote, "The council does not need to meet. It needs to exist in the record. One formal filing, a wartime advisory council constituted under the founding charter provision, with the 3 members' signatures and your name as nominal chair, filed through the Commission's legal record-keeping function with Commissioner Vare as the receiving officer. This creates the structure. We do not invoke it until conditions require it. The structure being present is what matters." He sealed the letter. He had it routed through the Eastern Factor network. Then he sat at the main table for a moment longer. He had built the case, built the compact, built the intelligence network, and decoded the legal architecture that would produce the emergency powers. Now he was building the legal counter-architecture. Each step had been waiting on the prior step. The provision had been in the charter for a century and no one had used it. No one had needed it for the right reason at the right time. He had needed it for 2 years. He had simply been waiting to have the pieces in place to use it. Gareth appeared in the doorway from the training yard. He looked at the sealed letter on the table and then at Kael. He said, "Caelan." He said, "Yes." Gareth said, "What did you ask him to do?" He said, "Something legal, invisible, and structurally significant." Gareth said, "Is it dangerous for him?" He said, "Not at this stage. The danger for him comes later, when conditions require us to invoke the structure. At that point the danger will be real." He paused. "I was explicit with him about this." Gareth said, "Good." Gareth went back to the training yard. He picked up the morning's pool data and began the afternoon's review cycle. The southern corridor was quiet. The Ironmark dispatches would arrive tomorrow. The capital courier would take 11 days to reach Seraphine. He had given Caelan what he needed. He went back to work. Caelan's response arrived 16 days later. It was 1 page. The handwriting was the same small, compressed script, but it moved faster than the previous letter. The strokes were more assured, the spacing more consistent. He had made a decision before he wrote. "I understand the provision. I have read the founding charter's appendix in the Highlands Command Post's administrative library, and the language is unambiguous. I am in contact with the 3 members you named through the Torrent Factor routing. Aldenvane has agreed. The Western Province Lord Davin Crest, whom I assume you already know, has agreed subject to 1 condition, which I have transmitted separately. Lady Merrick's ally has agreed with no conditions. Davin Crest's condition. He wants to know whether the Commission's investigation will, at some point, include scrutiny of appointments to the Northern Provincial Supply Contract Mechanism. I have told him I cannot answer on your behalf. I am transmitting the question." The filing will be ready within 3 weeks pending your response to Crest and one logistical question about Commissioner Vare's receiving function, whether the filing can be routed through the Southern Regional Office rather than the Capital Office, which would avoid the Capital Office's current oversight structure. He read this twice. Then he wrote to Davin Crest directly, through the Torin factor routing. The Northern Provincial Supply Contract Mechanism was something he had been aware of since Year 9, when Aldenvane's information network had produced a set of irregularities in the supply routing for the Northern Compact Lord's garrison provisioning. The irregularities were not compact-level fraud, they were at the level of provincial contract administration, the specific category of financial management that sat below the Commission's standard investigation threshold and above the level that individual noble estates could challenge through their own legal mechanisms. There was a middle layer of provincial contract administration that had been operating outside normal oversight for at least 8 years. If the Commission's investigation expanded to include the supply mechanism, it would expose connections between provincial administrative officials and the Church of Light's financial structure that Kael's network had been tracking but not acting on. He wrote to Crest, "The Commission's investigation will, when its primary case is fully in formal record, file a supplemental inquiry into Northern Provincial Supply Contract Mechanism anomalies documented in Year 9 to 11. This will happen as a natural extension of the existing case, not as a special favor, not contingent on your participation in the Wartime Advisory Council, and not timed to your benefit specifically. The case moves on the case's timeline. Your participation in the council does not accelerate or delay it." He paused. He wrote, "I am telling you this because it is true and because you asked. I am not making a transactional offer. The council structure is either useful to you for the same reason it is useful to Aldenvane and Lady Merrick's ally. The kingdom is better off with a legal alternative structure than without one, or it is not useful to you. That determination is yours." He sealed the letter. The logistical question, the Southern Regional Commission Office, was simpler. Commissioner Vare had established a receiving function at the Southern Regional Office specifically for frontier security documentation during the active investigation. The office reported directly to Vare rather than through the standard Capital Office chain. Filing through it would place the Wartime Advisory Council's constituting document in the Commission's Southern Regional Record, which was technically part of the official Commission record, outside the Capital Office's current oversight structure. He wrote a separate note to Commissioner Vare framed as a routine inquiry about the Southern Office's receiving function for founding charter administrative filings that established the mechanism without stating its purpose directly. Vare was a capable reader. She would understand the inquiry's direction. He sent the letters in the afternoon courier and returned to the main table. The southern corridor was quiet. It had been quiet for 51 days. He ran the Sovereign's eye at its ambient 800-meter baseline and let the frontier settle into his awareness. The barony at mid-morning, garrison in training, the mine's equipment sound at the eastern ridge, the pool data collection points running their standard cycles. The specific quality of late March frontier air that was still cold, but had begun to carry the first texture of spring, not warmth exactly, but the absence of the specific cutting quality of February. He was 17, and he had just laid the third stone of a legal counterstructure that he had been waiting 18 months to begin building. The first stone, the commission case. The second stone, the compact's formal designation. The third stone, the Wartime Advisory Council, when it existed. These were defensive structures. They would not stop what was happening in the capital. They would limit the damage and preserve the legal ground for what came after. What came after was a more complicated matter that he was not yet in position to address. He wrote in the private document, "The charter provision dates to a specific historical crisis." The people who wrote it understood that emergency authority could become permanent authority. They built a mechanism to prevent this, and then the mechanism sat unused for 100 years because the specific combination of conditions it required had not recurred. The conditions have recurred. I intend to use it. He stopped. He wrote, "I am using the legal structure created by people who understood the danger before I was born. This is what it means to understand rather than to force. The work they did is the work I'm building on." He closed the document. Gareth was at the training yard. The barony was its usual morning self. The Ironmark dispatches would arrive on Thursday. He spent the afternoon reviewing the intelligence picture for the Northern Front in detail, not the summary he had been reading, but the underlying reports. Aldenvane's network had contacts in 2 of the 5 northern provincial staging cities. The Commission's northern regional investigator had been documenting the Ironmark forces' movement patterns for 6 weeks, and a supplementary source, a trade factor in Herongate who had been in indirect contact since year 10, had been sending regular updates on Ironmark supply movements through the border market system. He laid out what he knew. The Ironmark force was structured as 3 division-scale units. The first, advancing through the central Ashenvale Valley, was the main body, approximately 30,000, organized for sustained campaign rather than rapid assault. The second, moving through the northwestern pass, was a flanking contingent of about 18,000 faster, lighter, designed to extend the engagement line and force a distributed Royal Army response. The third was the supply force, 12,000 in the southern mountain staging area, holding position, keeping the main body supplied. The Royal Army was responding to the first 2 units, inadequately, at the managed failure rate that had been its pattern for 14 months. It was not responding to the 3rd unit at all. The supply force was not moving. It had been holding position in the southern mountain staging area for 6 weeks. A supply force that was not moving was either waiting for the campaign to progress to a point that required its advance, or it was operating as a reserve, a strategic asset that could be committed or withheld depending on how the engagement developed. He stared at the supply force's position for a long time. He began to understand the shape of the battle he wanted to fight. He picked up his pen and began drafting a specific set of notes, not plans, not orders, but the thinking behind a plan. The topography of the Ashenvale Valley and its surrounding terrain. The specific vulnerability of a supply force that was holding position in terrain designed for staging, not defense. The eye's ability to track a flanking cavalry movement in real time and coordinate its timing with a center-held engagement from a distance. He worked until the lamp needed adjusting. Then he went to find Gareth. He said, "The Northern Front. I have something to show you." Gareth sat down across the main table. He listened without interrupting while Kael laid out what he had been seeing in the northern reports. When Kael finished, Gareth looked at the topographic notes for a moment. He said, "You're planning a battle." Kael said, "I'm planning a battle." Gareth said, "When?" Kael said, "Not yet. There are things that need to happen first." Gareth said, "What things?" Kael said, "Seraphine needs to make her move at the Noble Council. The Advisory Council needs to be in the record. And I need to know the Ironmark supply force is still in that position when we're ready." Gareth looked at the notes. Then he looked at Kael. He said, "You're going to need cavalry. The flanking route you're describing, it's a long arc. For hours at full speed." Kael said, "Brennan's cavalry. They've been doing the terrain coordination exercises. They can run it." Gareth said, "If the eye can track them the whole way." Kael said, "The eye can track them the whole way." Gareth looked at the notes again. He said, "I want to see the Ashenvale topography in more detail." Kael pulled out the supplementary maps from Aldenvane's network. They worked through the evening. The frontier held. The legal structure was being built. The battle had a shape. He was not yet ready to fight it. He heard about it through Torrens Capital Factor 4 days before Seraphine's letter arrived. The dispatch was flagged urgent. The Torren network used a specific wax color for time-sensitive intelligence, and it reached the barony on a Tuesday afternoon by fast rider. He opened it at the main table while Gareth stood at the window. The factor's message was 3 lines. Noble Council Session Extraordinary Presentation, Monday. Royal Envoy House Voss presented evidence of order institutional interference in frontier security, Royal Army command appointments, and Ironmark declaration timing to the full Noble Council floor. Presentation is in the formal record. Voss departed the capital city this morning. He read this 3 times. He said to Gareth, "She went to the floor." Gareth said, "I heard." He set the message down. He had known she was going to make a move. The letter she had sent about the vote outcome had ended with a sentence that had the specific quality of someone describing a position they have already decided on. The Commission's case is in the formal record. The testimony was presented. The next question is whether the formal record requires a public advocate. That had been 3 weeks ago. She had answered the question. He thought about what the session would have looked like. The Noble Council floor was a formal setting, specific protocols, specific order of precedent, specific procedures for entering evidence into the official record. A royal envoy presenting before the full Noble Council required prior approval from the session chair, who was currently a commission member ally of the king's faction. She would have had to find a procedural path. She had found one. The evidence itself, the commission case, the cross-border coordination picture, the Ironmark declaration timing, and its relationship to the manufactured pretext. She had the forensic assessment of the Burin anchor, the estate account documentation, the Order's Church of Light administrative structure identified through the assessment program analysis, the Royal Army appointment anomalies, the Ironmark diplomatic intermediaries activity pattern. Some of this was formally in the commission record and presentable. Some of it was intelligence that could be characterized as research and analysis rather than legal evidence. She would have known precisely which was which and would have presented accordingly. The presentation was now in the formal Noble Council record. The King's Court would not be able to suppress it. They could contest it, characterize it as incomplete, challenge its sourcing. They could not remove it from the record. He said, "She burned the bridge." Gareth said, "She knew she was burning it." He said, "Yes." He sat at the main table in the specific quiet of a place that had been running normally and was now recalibrating. The pool data cycle would arrive in the morning. The Ironmark dispatches were 3 days away. Davin Crest's response to his last letter was expected within the week. Seraphine had departed the capital that morning. She would arrive at the frontier in approximately 3 days by fast road, longer if she was traveling with a full escort. The capital was no longer a place where she could operate freely. She had formally made herself an opponent of the king's faction. And the king had expanded emergency authority over military command structures and was supported by the Order's institutional network. She was coming here. He said, "The frontier will need to support an additional senior presence for an extended period. Not just the royal envoy role, she'll be running a political operation from the frontier." Gareth said, "The frontier can support it." He said, "The guest quarters. If she's going to be working from here for months, the guest quarters need to be." He stopped. Gareth said, "I'll have them prepared." He said, "Yes." He picked up the main table's current work, the Ironmark topographic assessment he and Gareth had been developing. He set it aside. The battle would wait. The battle would wait until the Wartime Advisory Council was in the record and Seraphine was at the frontier, and he had a complete picture of what the Noble Council session had produced. He wrote to Caelan. Short letter, fast route. The presentation has been made. The record exists. Move the filing to Commissioner Vare as soon as Crest confirms. This is the right window. He wrote to Aldenvane. Seraphine Voss has presented the full evidence picture to the Noble Council floor. This is now in the official record. I need to know what the 4 Compact Lords' public position is on this development. Not privately, publicly. The other noble houses will be watching to see who aligns with the formal record and who distances from it. The Compact's position should be clear. He did not write to Seraphine. She was traveling. Anything sent now would not reach her before she arrived. The days between the dispatch and her arrival had a specific quality, not waiting exactly, since there was sufficient work to fill them, but with the specific texture of work done while aware of something that was going to arrive. The Ironmark dispatches arrived Thursday. The supply force was still in position. Aldenvane's network reported that the Ironmark main body had advanced 3 kilometers in the past week, the slowest advance rate in 2 months, which was consistent with the managed engagement pattern, but at a threshold that suggested the Ironmark generals were beginning to question whether the campaign's pace was serving their interests. He noted this. When the Ironmark generals start asking whether the pace serves them, the managed dynamic becomes unstable. The Order's coordination requires the Ironmark side to keep moving at the right speed. If the Ironmark command recalibrates independently, the Order loses control of the Northern Front's tempo. He filed this and kept working. On Saturday morning, 3 days after the urgent dispatch from Torrens Factor, The sovereigns caught a group of riders at the edge of its 800-meter radius on the eastern approach road. He had the eye running ambient as always, the specific mass and aura signature of a travel group, 6 riders, light luggage configuration, one with a significant aura presence, registered in his awareness before the barony's perimeter watch reported them. He was already at the main hall's door when the perimeter watch called in. He said, "I know." The riders came through the approach at a pace that said they had been riding for days and were conserving the horses for the last stretch. He stood in the courtyard and watched them come in. Seraphine was in the traveling arrangement, the same practical configuration as when she had left 3 months ago. She was composed in the specific way of someone who had been composed for a long time and was well past the point where composition required effort. She pulled up in the yard and dismounted with the slightly deliberate quality of someone whose legs had been in the saddle for too many hours. She looked at the barony. Then she looked at him. He said, "The dispatch arrived Tuesday." She said, "I know. I sent it." She handed the reins to the waiting stable hand. "I imagine you have questions." He said, "I have an assessment. I'll tell you whether it's correct after you've had a chance to eat and stop moving." She said, "The assessment can wait an hour." He said, "Yes." He walked with her inside. The barony had been running its standard cycle since her last visit. The study had been cleared and organized. The guest quarters were prepared. Gareth appeared at the yard's edge, looked at her, and went back to the training yard without comment. An hour later they were in the study. She had eaten and changed. She had the traveling arrangement replaced with the working one, the specific clothing she wore for operations, not transit. He said, "You waited until the emergency authorization was passed." She said, "Yes." He said, "Because presenting before the vote would have been framed as an attempt to influence the vote, politically legible as opposition rather than evidence. Presenting after gave the evidence its own status. It's in the record as a formal presentation, not a political intervention." She said, "Yes." He said, "And you burned your position in the capital deliberately, because operating from the capital after the vote would have meant operating under the oversight structure the emergency authorization created. The quarterly reports, the Oversight Council, the Crown's expanded appointment authority, all of it would have made the Commission's investigation harder to run from inside the capital than from outside it." She said, "Yes." She looked at him. "Is there anything you didn't already know?" He said, "Whether the departure was voluntary or whether they were going to ask you to leave." She said, "It was voluntary. I departed before anyone could make the request." A pause. "But the request would have come within a week." He said, "Then the timing was right." She said, "Yes." She set her hands on the desk, not the organized stillness of her working position, a slightly different configuration, the specific quality of someone who had been running at full output and had just sat down. The evidence is in the formal record. The presentation is there. The King's faction will contest it, characterize it as partisan analysis, request the Commission's sourcing documentation. All of this will take time and produce more formal record that adds to the picture rather than reducing it. A pause. "I am going to need to build the next stage of the case from here, with the Commission's investigation continuing under the quarterly report mechanism. I'll need full access to the Frontier's intelligence picture." He said, "You have it." She said, "I know." He said, "There's a development on the Wartime Advisory Council structure that I'll brief you on tomorrow. Caelan is in position. The filing is close to ready." She said, "I saw the Caelan news before I left. The Southern Highlands assignment was exactly what we expected." He said, "Yes." She said, "Tomorrow then." She looked at the study. "The barony hasn't changed." He said, "No." She said, "Good." She picked up the pen on the desk that had been waiting for her, looked at it, and set it down again. Then she looked at him. She said, "The Frontier is holding." He said, "The Frontier is holding." She looked at the desk. He looked at the evening light through the western window. The specific quiet of the study at the end of a day when something significant had happened settled around both of them. He did not say, "You came back again." She did not say, "I always come back." Neither of these things needed to be said. He said, "There's work in the morning." She said, "There always is." He went to the main table. She went to the guest quarters. The barony settled into its nighttime wait, and the sovereign's eye held its 800-meter ambient across the frontier, and the pooled data would arrive in the morning. She was here. He filed it and went back to work. That evening, the first evening, after the practical necessities had been covered and the household had settled into its nighttime configuration, he asked her. Not with preamble. He had been thinking about how to ask since Tuesday, when the dispatch had arrived. He had considered and discarded 3 framings. The strategic framing. What was the tactical decision-making process that led to the timing? The administrative framing. Walk me through the procedural path you used to get the floor access. And the direct framing, why now? He had landed on direct. He said, why now? The presentation. You could have waited for the commission's case to be more complete. You could have waited for the advisory council to be filed. You had more time. She was at the study's window, looking out at the barony yard. Not the working position. She was not at the desk, had not picked up a document. The window position was one he had seen her in before, not waiting, not performing, just being present in a space. She was quiet for a moment. Not the quiet of someone assembling an answer, the quiet of someone deciding whether to give a specific answer they already have. She said, because you're the only person in this kingdom whose goals I trust completely. He looked at her. She said, not trust as in, I believe you are honest, which is also true. Trust as in, your goal is what you say it is. The compact's security. The frontier's integrity. The kingdom's stability against a specific threat that no one else is taking seriously enough. You have been working toward the same end since you were 8 years old, and nothing has moved you from it. She paused. I have been in political work for 9 years. I have worked with 23 noble council members, 4 commission boards, 2 kings, and 107 contacts of varying reliability. I have not encountered this specific quality in any of them. He said, you trusted the commission's work. She said, the commission's work is an institution. Institutions can be trusted for their structure, not their direction. They can be corrupted from inside, redirected by appointment, managed through their oversight mechanisms. A pause. You can't be managed through oversight mechanisms. He said, I can be. She said, you can be delayed, contested, and legally obstructed. Those are different from managed. Managed means the institution's outcome can be directed toward a different end than its stated purpose. Your outcome cannot be directed toward a different end than your stated purpose. I have watched you operate for 3 years under conditions specifically designed to redirect you, and nothing has redirected you. He looked at her. She said, the second part of the answer, if I'm not going to be publicly on your side, then what exactly have I been doing for the past 3 years? He was quiet. She said, I have been building the commission case. I have been coordinating the Noble Council briefing structure. I have been managing the compact's legal cover for the intelligence operation. I have been doing all of this in the context of your work. She looked at the yard. The polite fiction was that I was doing it in the context of my own independent judgment as royal envoy. The polite fiction served a purpose. It gave us legal cover, and it kept my position at the capital usable for longer than it would otherwise have been. She looked at him. The polite fiction has run its course. The capital position is not usable. The commission's case is in the record. What I am, your ally in this specific work, with my own standing and my own judgment about its value, is not something I want to continue pretending I am not. He did not answer. There was nothing to add to this. She had seen exactly what she had seen, and she had stated it with the specific precision she used for things that mattered. He had no objection to the precision and no addition to the statement. She was right about his goals. She was right about her own position. She was right about the polite fiction and what it had served and when it had stopped serving it. He was aware, in the specific filing manner he had been using since she arrived at the frontier 3 years ago, that this was a significant moment. He was also aware that she had said what she had said with a completeness that did not require a response in kind. The response in kind, naming what she was to him, naming what the 3 years had produced on his side, was not something he was prepared to give at this particular moment in this particular context, and she had not asked for it. She had stated a truth about the work and the alliance. He was receiving it as a truth about the work and the alliance. He said, the compact's formal designation documents will need to include your name in the frontier intelligence structure. Not as royal envoy, That commission may have changed with the capital departure, but as a recognized operational partner, the legal status matters for everything that comes next. She said, I have the House boss standing independently of the royal envoy role. The Noble Council record of Monday's presentation establishes me as an active party in the Frontier security case, which creates a different kind of standing. A pause. What comes next? He said, the Wartime Advisory Council filing. The Northern Campaign. The Commission's quarterly report in 3 months. And then, the next Noble Council reconvening in 6 months, which is the window where the emergency authorization review happens. He paused. We have 6 months to build the case to a standard where the reconvening produces a different outcome than the original session. She said, we've done more with less time. He said, yes. She turned from the window. The specific quality of the lamp at its evening height fell across the study, the working light, the quality of light that had been present in this room through significant portions of the past 3 years. She looked at the desk. She said, the briefing on the Wartime Advisory Council. Tomorrow morning. He said, yes. She said, the pool data cycle. He said, arrives at mid-morning. She said, then we start at mid-morning. She picked up the pen from the desk. Tonight I'm going to write the Commission's quarterly report outline so that when the first reporting deadline arrives, the structure is already in place. He said, the reporting deadline is in 3 months. She said, which means the structure should be in place in 2 months. She sat down at the desk with the specific efficiency of someone who had made a decision about what they were doing for the next few hours. If you need the study, I can work in the main hall. He said, I have the main table. The study is yours. He went to the main table. The barony held its nighttime wait. The sovereign's eye ran its ambient radius across the frontier. Outside, the April night was cold and clear, with the first suggestion in the air that spring was becoming real rather than theoretical. The pool data collection points ran their standard cycles. The southern corridor was quiet. He worked. She worked. In the study, her lamp stayed on past midnight. He filed this in the same place he had been filing everything since she arrived. He did not examine it. He went to work. The Wartime Advisory Council's constituting document was filed with Commissioner Vare's Southern Regional Office on the 9th of April, year 12. He received the confirmation through the Torin Factor network 2 days later, a routine trade correspondence confirmation with a specific encoded line indicating successful filing. He showed it to Seraphine. She read it, set it down, and went back to the quarterly report draft without comment. The document's existence in the Commission's Southern Regional Record was not public. It was not secret. It was a legal filing with appropriate provenance, and anyone who went looking for it in the regional records would find it. But no one was looking for it. The founding charter provision was not something the king's advisors were tracking, because it had never been relevant before. He moved his attention to the north. The intelligence picture for the Ironmark front had been building for 6 weeks, and by mid-April it had reached the threshold where the pattern was legible enough to act on. He spent 3 days working through it systematically, the reports from Aldenvane's network, the Commission's Northern Regional Investigators documentation, the Herringate Trade Factors supply movement updates, the overall Royal Army deployment picture that came through 2 channels, the official Commission briefings that went to all frontier commanders, and Gareth's former contacts' informal observations. The picture. The Ironmark main body in the Ashenvale Valley was 30,000 strong and had advanced approximately 22 kilometers from the original border crossing point. It had been moving at a rate of approximately 3 kilometers per week, the managed pace, deliberately maintained. The advance had slowed in the past 2 weeks, 1.5 kilometers, then 0.8 kilometers. Something in the Ironmark command was causing deceleration. The northwestern flanking contingent, 18,000 strong, had reached the secondary pass and was holding position. It had not advanced in 11 days. This was unusual. A flanking contingent that held position after reaching its objective was either waiting for the main body or had received orders to hold. The Southern Mountain Staging Area's supply force, 12,000 strong, was still in position. It had not moved. It had been in position for 9 weeks. He stared at the supply force's position for a long time. A supply force in a staging area that did not move for 9 weeks was either 1. Waiting for the campaign to progress to a specific point before advancing, 2. Serving as a strategic reserve that would be committed at the decisive moment, or 3. Holding position for reasons that had nothing to do with the campaign's tactical needs. Option 3 had a specific shape. A supply force in a mountain staging area that held position for 9 weeks while the main body's advance decelerated was consistent with a force that was not actually being used as a supply force. It was being used as a staging force, waiting for an order to commit in a specific direction that was not the current main advance. He said to Seraphine, across the main table, the Ironmark supply force. She looked up from the quarterly report. He said, 9 weeks in position. The main body is decelerating. The flanking contingent has held after reaching its objective. He paused. The supply force is not supplying. It's waiting. She said, for what? He said, for the Royal Army's defensive line to create a gap. If the Royal Army performs poorly enough, which it has been doing, the main advance will press it into a redeployment. The redeployment creates a gap in the secondary coverage of the southern approaches. The supply force commits through the gap, not into the main engagement, into the southern approaches. She looked at the map he had open on the table. She studied it for a moment. She said, the Ashenvale Valley's southern exit. He said, the Ashenvale Valley's southern exit leads directly to the Central Provincial Road Network. If the supply force came through there, it would be inside the defensive line, not pressing against it. She said, the Royal Army's commanders would have to allow this. He said, the managed non-performance would allow it. Not deliberately holding the southern approach, just failing to maintain adequate coverage because the command structure is prioritizing the wrong engagements. She looked at him. She said, this is the decisive push. This is what they've been waiting 9 weeks to attempt. He said, yes. And the timing. He paused. The main body has been decelerating for 2 weeks. I think they're close to the point where the Royal Army's deployment pattern will create the gap. Within the next 3 to 4 weeks. She said, we don't have 3 to 4 weeks of quiet in the south. He said, no. She looked at the map. He said, I can't hold the southern frontier and address the northern situation simultaneously with the compact's resources. The southern corridor has been quiet for 60 days, but Beth's estimate was 3 to 6 weeks and we're at 10. The quiet is borrowed time. He paused. If I move north to address the Ironmark situation, the southern frontier requires a holding force that can maintain without me. She said, Gareth. He said, Gareth can hold the southern frontier with the garrison and the compact's combined militia. The Eye's ambient coverage makes the garrison's coordination effective even without my direct presence. He paused. But I need to move north before the supply force commits. If the supply force gets through the gap in the Royal Army's line, the campaign becomes a different kind of problem. She said, you're going to engage the supply force. He said, I'm going to engage the main body. The supply force becomes vulnerable if the main body can't cover its commitment. If I can create enough disruption in the main body's command structure. She said, you're going to fight 30,000 soldiers with 15,000 frontier fighters. He said, 15,000 with the Eye at 800-meter ambient, Brennan's cavalry on a flanking route, and the specific terrain advantage of fighting in a valley I've studied for 6 weeks against generals who are managing their performance and therefore cannot adapt. She was quiet. He said, the generals can't fight well because they've been ordered not to fight well. When I create a crisis that requires them to actually perform, they won't be able to. The order to underperform is also an order that removes their adaptive capacity. She said, that's either brilliant or catastrophically optimistic. He said, it's both. The brilliant part is the terrain analysis and the Eye's coordination capability. The catastrophically optimistic part is what happens if there's one general in the 30,000 who is actually trying to win. She said, and if there is. He said, then the battle is harder and I have to be better than I've been trained to be. A pause. I've been trained very well. She looked at him for a moment. Then she looked at the map. She said, Gareth. He said, I'll tell him tonight. She said, the compact lords. They'll need to know the force allocation. He said, I'll write the letters tonight. She said, Commission coverage. If you're moving north without royal sanction. He said, volunteer force with frontier warfare experience. Presenting to the regional command as assistance, not replacement. The regional commander is a genuine military man, he'll accept. She said, and when this becomes public, when you win a significant battle without sanction. He said, then the Wartime Advisory Council's existence in the record becomes very relevant very quickly. She looked at the map for a long time. Then she looked at him. She said, how long do you need to prepare? He said, 2 weeks. The force assembly, the cavalry coordination exercises with the specific flanking route, the intelligence picture updates. He paused. I've already started the planning. She said, I know you have. She went back to the quarterly report. Write the compact letters tonight. I'll review them in the morning before you send them. He said, yes. He went to the main table and began drafting. The northern front had a shape. The shape required 2 weeks of preparation and then required everything he had. He was 17. He had been trained very well. He wrote the letters. Gareth's response to the plan was to listen and then to say one thing. He said, take Aldous. Kael said, the space magic. Yes. Gareth said, and 2 of Ketterly's gold-capable aides. The ones who ran the screen work at the major assault. They know how to operate inside the eyes coverage. Kael said, yes. Gareth said, Brennan's cavalry, Caelan commands the western contingent. He's been running the terrain coordination exercise for 8 weeks. He knows the flanking geometry. Kael said, I know. I've been watching the exercises. Gareth said, he'll want to know the specific route 3 days before departure. Not sooner. He'll over-prepare and his cavalry will be exhausted before the engagement. 3 days. Kael said, 3 days before departure. He paused. The southern frontier. While I'm north. Gareth said, I know the plan. Kael said, the eye has a range of 800 meters ambient. That's the coverage at the barony. If the demon force comes through the southern corridor. Gareth said, I've held the southern corridor without you before. He looked at Kael steadily. Go north. Do your job. I'll do mine. The specific quality of this, the echo of the major assault preparation, the same cadence, the same clean division, was something Kael held for a moment without examining. He said, the garrison has the coordination exercises. The compact militia captains have been running the eye coverage protocols. The only thing they won't have is me, and the eye's ambient coverage doesn't require my presence for effective operation. Gareth said, I know. Kael said, if anything comes through the southern corridor while I'm north. Gareth said, I'll handle it. Kael said, yes. He went back to the main table. The preparation had been running for 10 days. The force he was assembling was drawn from the compact's combined contributions specifically. The units that had been running the most advanced coordination exercises and who understood how to fight inside the eye's awareness without requiring verbal instruction. Brennan's cavalry was the critical component. The flanking route he had designed required 4 hours of movement across terrain that would put them out of direct sight of the main engagement. And the eye's ability to track their position in real time and adjust the center hold timing accordingly was the mechanism that made the battle possible at all. He could not fight 30,000 with 15,000 in a straightforward engagement. He could fight 30,000 with 15,000 if the 15,000 included an element that was invisible until the moment of its decisive impact, and if the timing of that impact was coordinated with perfect precision from inside the eye's awareness. He had been working through the specific timing calculations for 11 days. The Ashenvale Valley's terrain had one significant feature, a narrow pass at its southern end through which the main body supply train had to travel. If Brennan's cavalry hit the supply train at the moment when the main body was fully engaged with Kael's center force, fully committed, not able to redirect, the main body would lose its coherence. A force that loses its supply train in the middle of a sustained engagement loses its ability to sustain. The coherence failure would follow within hours. The managed non-performance of the Royal Army's officers was the thing he had been counting on. They were following orders to perform incompetently, which meant they had been performing incompetently on a deliberate basis for 14 months. Deliberate incompetence was a skill, the same as deliberate confidence. It required constant management and prevented the development of genuine adaptive capacity. When the center engagement became a real crisis, they would not have the muscle memory for genuine response. He wrote the letters to the compact lords during the preparation week. The force assembly was explained as a frontier volunteer contribution to the Northern Regional Command, not as a compact military operation, but as individually motivated fighters with frontier warfare experience offering assistance. This was accurate in the specific way that accurate framings could be. Seraphine reviewed each letter before it went out. She changed 2 phrases in the Brennan letter, 1 phrase in the Ketterly letter, and said the Aldenvane letter was fine. He adopted the changes without discussion. They were improvements. On the 14th day of preparation, he received the intelligence update that told him the window was opening. Aldenvane's contact at the northern staging point reported that the Ironmark main body had advanced 2 kilometers in the past 3 days, an acceleration from the previous deceleration. The Royal Army's deployment had shifted south, creating a coverage gap in the Ashenvale secondary approaches. The gap was not yet large enough for the supply force to commit. It would be large enough within 4 to 7 days. He told Gareth. Gareth said, 3 days from now. That's when Karen gets the specific route. He said, yes. He told Seraphine. She said, I'll be at the barony. The Commission's quarterly report will continue. If the battle happens, when the battle happens, I'll handle the political correspondence from here. He said, there will be a lot of it. She said, I know. She looked at him. When you arrive at the regional command post, present the force correctly. Not as compact command, as frontier volunteer assistance. The regional commander needs to receive you as an auxiliary, not a replacement. He said, I know. She said, he may push back on your tactical assessment. He's an experienced military man and you're 17. He said, I'm aware. She said, when he pushes back, give him the analytical case, not the eyes picture. He won't understand the eyes picture. He'll understand a sound tactical argument. He said, I know. She said, make sure he understands that the flanking cavalry will be coordinated from your position, not from a traditional cavalry command. He's never seen a battle managed from inside a domain awareness. He may not realize it's possible. He said, I'll demonstrate the eye before I ask him to trust the plan. If he sees what the eye can do in a low-stakes context, convoy tracking, forward scouting, perimeter awareness, he'll understand the tactical argument better. She said, that's the right sequence. She looked at the study. Is there anything else? He said, no. She said, then go north and win. He looked at her. She said, that's not sentimentality. That's the operational requirement. He said, I know. He left the barony on the morning of the 16th day with 15,000 frontier fighters, Brennan's cavalry at full strength, Ketterly's gold-capable aides, Aldous with his space magic competency, and the Sovereign's Eye at its full 800-meter ambient running across the march column. The march north was 5 days. On the 3rd day, he received a short dispatch from Seraphine, Wartime Advisory Council confirmation received. The filing is in the record. Caelan acknowledged. He read this on the road, in the mid-morning light, with the column behind him and the northern passes becoming visible on the horizon. He said nothing about it. He put the dispatch away. He arrived at the Northern Regional Command post on the 5th day. The commander was a man named Halvar 50s, career military, the specific lean quality of someone who had spent 30 years in active frontier conditions and whose body had adapted to it. He met Kael's column at the post's exterior gate. He looked at Kael. He looked at the 15,000 fighters behind Kael. He looked at Kael again. He said, you're the one from the eastern frontier. Kael said, yes. Halvar said, you're 17. Kael said, yes. Halvar said, the eastern frontier's assault repel in December. That was you. Kael said, yes. Halvar looked at the column again. He said, come inside. He said, before we do, I want to show you what I have. He extended the Sovereign's Eye. Not the full 800-meter ambient, the directed channel, focused north along the approach road. He tracked 3 points of interest simultaneously: the Ironmark scouts at 6 kilometers, the Royal Army Patrol at 4 kilometers, and the Ironmark main body's front edge at 9 kilometers. He described each position, the count, the movement direction, the specific aura signatures of the gold-capable fighters embedded in the Ironmark scouting teams. Halvar listened. Then he verified 2 of the positions through his own intelligence channel. Both verified. He looked at Kael. He said, "Come inside." He said, "Yes." They went inside. The battle was 4 days away. The battle began at dawn on a Tuesday in the second week of May, year 12. He spent the 4 days at the regional command post the way he always spent the time before a specific kind of action, working the problem, not the outcome. The problem had components: the terrain, the force positions, the eye's coverage, the cavalry's route, the timing sequence, the specific variables that could not be planned for. Halvar was a good military man. He had 30 years of experience, a clear understanding of what the Ironmark main body could and could not do, and the specific adaptability of someone who had survived 3 major campaign actions and understood that survival required acknowledging what you did not know. He pushed back on the plan in 3 places. Kael addressed 2 of the pushbacks by adjusting the plan. The third was a difference in assessment about the managed non-performance issue, which Halvar found too speculative to build a battle around. He said to Halvar on the 3rd day, "Tell me the last time a Royal Army unit in the current Northern Command made a successful adaptive response to an unexpected tactical development." Halvar was quiet. He said, 8 months ago. He said, "And the 8 months since?" Halvar said, 3 failed responses. 2 missed deployments. 1 retreat that didn't require retreating. He paused. "I thought it was quality deterioration." Kael said, "It's consistent across all the units under the compromised command appointments. It's not quality deterioration, it's a managed pattern. When the engagement becomes a real crisis, they will fail to adapt because the muscle memory for genuine performance has been replaced by the muscle memory for managed failure." Halvar looked at him for a long moment. He said, "You're telling me their commanders have been practicing incompetence?" Kael said, "For 14 months. "Yes." Halvar said, "That's one of the most alarming things I've ever heard." Kael said, "It should be." Halvar looked at the battle plan. He said, "If you're wrong about the adaptive failure." Kael said, "If I'm wrong, the center engagement becomes harder, and I have to hold it for longer before the flanking cavalry can hit. The battle is still possible. It's more costly." Halvar said, "How much more costly?" Kael said, "My estimate is 800 casualties if the adaptive failure holds. Approximately 2,500 if it doesn't." Halvar said, "And the Ironmark?" Kael said, 4,000 at minimum under either scenario, once the supply train is hit. Without supplies, the main body cannot sustain. The tactical result is the same." Halvar looked at the plan for a long time. Then he said, "I'll support your cavalry's departure from the secondary staging point. What I cannot do officially is commit the regional command's forces to a plan that isn't sanctioned." Kael said, "I know. Hold the regional command's position. I'll operate as auxiliary." Halvar said, "If this works, the political situation becomes complicated." Kael said, "I know." Halvar said, "If it doesn't?" Kael said, "If it doesn't, the political situation becomes simpler. I'll have failed, and the question of whether I should have done this won't require a complicated answer." Halvar looked at him. He said, "You're very calm about this." Kael said, "I've done a lot of preparation." The dawn of the battle day came cold and clear, the specific quality of northern May, where spring had arrived in the valleys, but the past temperatures were still midwinter cold. He stood at the ridge overlook above the Ashenvale Valley's southern position at first light and ran the Sovereign's eye. The Ironmark main body was in position at the valley's northern approach. 29,000 fighters, he counted through the eye, moving through the mass of aura signatures with the specific practice of 9 years of ambient awareness. The gold-equivalent command element was at the front, 4, including one that was closer to diamond than gold, which he noted and filed. The supply force was in position at the staging area 5 kilometers south of the main body. Brennan's cavalry was at the wide flanking position, already 7 kilometers west, in the approach to the route he had designed, ready to begin the long arc at his signal. The eye tracked them as a mass at that distance, not individual signatures, but the collective weight of 3,000 cavalry in motion-ready configuration. His center force, 12,000 infantry and compact fighters, was in the valley's secondary position, 800 meters north of the ridge. Within the eye's full ambient coverage, he could feel every fighter in the center force the way he could feel the barony's garrison at full awareness, not individually but collectively, the shape of their positions, the weight of their readiness. Ketterly's gold-capable aides were at the command position beside him. Aldous was at the left flank position, where the valley's terrain produced an approach vector that required space magic support for the defensive geometry. He said to the aides, "Signal the center force. Advance to contact." The battle began. The center engagement took the shape he had designed. His force advanced into the valley's northern third and made contact with the Ironmark main body's front element at mid-morning. The Ironmark responded with the expected mass deployment, pushing their front element forward and expanding their flanking coverage. He watched the expansion through the eye and tracked the specific positions of the Royal Army elements on the valley's eastern ridge, who were covering the engagement in the managed non-performance pattern, close enough to respond, positioned in a way that would require a specific trigger to commit. He did not need them to commit. He needed them to be in their current position and not move. The center engagement was hard. The Ironmark's front element was better than the Demon Raid forces he had faced, professional soldiers with good unit cohesion and commanders who, in the initial contact, were performing at genuine competence. Not the diamond equivalent of the December assault, not the gold equivalent of the major battle. Solid, trained, serious fighters. He held the center. The eye covered 800 meters of the engagement in full ambient awareness. He tracked every position, every movement, every developing gap in the Ironmark line. He tracked the cavalry's flanking arc at the edge of awareness, distant, moving, taking the route he had designed. He tracked the supply force's position, still in staging, not yet committed. At the tower mark, the Ironmark's near-diamond gold commander made a decision. He brought the full front element into the center engagement. This was not the managed behavior. This was a genuine tactical decision from a commander who was responding to an engagement that wasn't resolving on schedule. Kael felt this through the eye, the mass of the front element's movement, the weight of a command commitment that was different in quality from the managed pattern. He said, to the nearest aide, "Message to Brennan." Now, the signal went west. He could not see Brennan's cavalry from the ridge. He could feel them through the eye's awareness, a mass in motion, 3,000 fighters beginning the final leg of the arc, the long curve that would bring them around the valley's western shoulder and into the approach to the supply staging area. For hours. He needed to hold the center for 4 more hours. The near-diamond gold commander had committed, which meant the managed pattern was breaking. He was now facing a commander who was actually trying to win. He went down from the ridge. He did not fight the battle from the command position. He fought it from the center. The eye gave him everything, every position, every strike vector, every gap in the Ironmark line, and every gap the Ironmark commander was finding in his. He used it completely, moving through the center force with the spatial awareness of a man who could sense 300 meters in every direction simultaneously, directing units by proximity rather than signal. Placing the force into positions that the eye told him were the right positions before the tactical situation made them visibly necessary. The Ironmark commander found him within the first hour. Not immediately. He was a small figure in a large engagement, and the Ironmark's command priority was the line rather than individual targets. But gold-level commanders noticed gold-level aura signatures. The near-diamond commander would have felt the Sovereign's eye's specific quality and understood what he was facing. They did not have a direct engagement. What they had was a sustained tactical competition. The Ironmark commander trying to create the decisive gap in Kael's center force, Kael using the eye's coverage to close each gap before it opened fully. For 3 hours, the center held. In the 4th hour, Brennan's cavalry hit the supply train. He felt it through the eye. Not directly. The cavalry was beyond his ambient range, but in the Ironmark main body's response. The specific quality of a force receiving unexpected news from behind, the command element's aura signatures shifting. The front line's forward pressure easing as commanders received and processed information that required them to reconsider their current commitment. The supply train was burning. The near-diamond commander understood immediately what it meant. He was a genuine commander. He knew the geometry. His main body was fully committed in the center engagement, his supply train was gone, and he had no logistics left for a sustained push. He had 15 minutes before his force began to feel the consequences. He made the correct military decision. He ordered a withdrawal. It was orderly. He was good. He pulled his front element back in good sequence, covering the withdrawal, protecting his command element. He lost contact with Kael's force in the first kilometer of withdrawal. Kael did not pursue. He did not pursue because the eye could track the withdrawal, and there was no tactical purpose in attrition chasing a retreating force with a center engagement that had cost him something. He stood at the valley's northern position and watched through the eye as the Ironmark main body withdrew north in good order. The battle was over. The counting came later. Kael's casualties, 847. In that number were 17 fighters he could name, fighters from the Eastern Frontier Garrison who had been running coordination exercises for 9 months. Fighters who had been present at the barony in one capacity or another, and whose absence in the eye's ambient coverage he felt with specific weight before he had the names. Ironmark casualties, the eye's count at the front engagement, plus Brennan's cavalry report on the supply train attack, plus the withdrawal pattern that suggested a force that had taken significant losses before committing to the withdrawal. Approximately 3,900. The supply train loss was total. He wrote these numbers in the private document that evening, in the command post's secondary room that Halvar had given him. He wrote, 847. 3,900. The battle is won. He stopped. He wrote, the 847 are the cost. He stopped again. He wrote, I knew the cost before I agreed to it. I am not pretending I didn't. The cost is in the record. He closed the document. He went to find Halvar. Halvar was in the command post's main room, reviewing the withdrawal reports. He looked up when Kael came in. He said, the main body withdrew intact. Kael said, yes. I didn't pursue. Halvar said, why? Kael said, because the supply train loss makes the withdrawal the more costly option for them. Pursuing gains me attrition. Not pursuing gains me a force that isn't depleted. A pause. We'll need it. Halvar looked at him for a long moment. He said, 800 casualties. Kael said, 847. Halvar said, against 30,000. Kael said, with the flanking cavalry, 15,000. Halvar said, that's the most one-sided engagement ratio in 15 years. Kael said, yes. Halvar said, people are going to hear about this. Kael said, yes. Halvar looked at him. He said, the king's court. Kael said, we'll hear about it too. Yes. Halvar looked at his hands. Then he looked at Kael. He said, I'm glad you came. Kael said, yes. He wrote the dispatch to Seraphine that evening. Short, factual. The kind of letter she wrote when time was short and the information mattered more than the framing. The battle is over. We held 847 casualties. Ironmark 3,900 estimated. Main body withdrew intact. Supply train destroyed. Ironmark cannot sustain a return engagement without resupply. The northern corridor is contained for now. He added one line at the bottom. Begin the political correspondence. The kingdom will notice. He sealed it and gave it to the fast rider. He went asleep in the field command position, in the specific sleep of someone who had been awake for 36 hours and had nothing left to hold back. The valley was quiet. The battle was won. Halvar's official dispatch to the Northern Regional Command went out the morning after the battle. Kael had read the draft. Halvar had been precise. The engagement at Ashenvale Valley, the force composition, the tactical outcome. The dispatch characterized Kael's force as a Frontier Auxiliary Volunteer Contingent under Frontier Command Authority, accurate, in the specific way that accurate framings could be. It credited the outcome to superior positional intelligence and effective cavalry coordination. Halvar had not characterized it as a Frontier Baron's unauthorized campaign. He had not needed to. The factual account was sufficient to convey what had happened. Anyone reading it would understand. Kael was at the command post for 3 more days, coordinating the return disposition of his force, meeting with Halvar about the Ironmark front's current status, and receiving the intelligence picture on the withdrawn main body's resupply situation. The picture was clear. The Ironmark main body, without its supply train, had pulled back to the secondary staging position near the border crossing. It was not in a condition to re-engage within the next 6 weeks. The flanking contingent, which had received word of the supply train loss, had also withdrawn to the pass, not in retreat, but in the specific reconfiguration of a force that had received news that changed the campaign's calculus. The northern corridor was quiet. He wrote to Seraphine, "The Ironmark main body is in secondary staging. 6 weeks minimum before re-engagement capacity. The flanking contingent has withdrawn to the pass. The northern front is contained for the time being." She wrote back in 8 days fast, "For the distance, the Noble Council has been informed." Halvar's dispatch was read in full session. "I will tell you what is happening in the capital after you have had the sleep you clearly need." He allowed himself 1 day of that. Then he read the letters that had accumulated while he was in the field. There were more letters than he had anticipated. The first category was from people who had never written to him before. A Noble Council member from the central provinces, not one of the western, northern, or eastern constituencies that had been in his network's coverage. Someone from the Grain region interior who had never had reason to contact a frontier baron, wrote to say that he had followed the frontier security developments with attention and believed that the Compact's intelligence work was the most significant contribution to frontier stability in 15 years. He wanted to discuss potential coordination with the Central Province's Agricultural Commission. A second Noble Council member from the southern coastal districts wrote to inquire about the frontier defense structure's applicability to coastal garrison organization. A retired commission investigator wrote to say he had documentation from Year 9 about Church of Light regional administration in the coastal provinces that he had not known where to send at the time. He was sending it now. Addressed to the Frontier Command Post. He read each of these carefully. The second category was from people he knew. Alden Vane wrote 3 sentences. The Noble Council's response to the Ashenvale outcome confirms what the Compact has known for 4 years. You are the most capable frontier commander in the kingdom's history. The council is trying to decide what to do about this. Brennan wrote 4 pages. The first 2 were about the battle, cavalry performance analysis, specific praise for 3 of Karen's sub-commanders, recommendations for the training protocol going forward. The third page was about the political situation. The fourth page was a question. What happens next? Ketterly wrote 2 lines. The central provinces have noticed. The coastal provinces have noticed. Everyone has noticed. K. Lady Merrick's letter was 8 pages. The third category was from his capital network. Davin's dispatch was longer than the usual 14 words. Noble Council Session Extraordinary Session called. The Ashenvale outcome was presented. Commission testimony included Halvar's report. 3 Noble Council members who had previously been neutral on the frontier security case have publicly associated with the formal records position. The Oversight Council's King-aligned members have been quiet for 4 days. Torrance Capital correspondent sent a full market report with a specific embedded line. 3 Church of Light regional assessment officials departed the capital the day Halvar's dispatch was received. Unknown destination. The capital's formal administrative community is having a specific conversation that I am going to transcribe in full and send to your designated routing by separate dispatch. He read the Torrent correspondent's full transcription 2 days later. The capital's formal administrative community, the commission mid-level officials, the Noble Council's support staff, the Factor Exchange's senior traders, the guild representatives who attended the quarterly administrative hearings, was having a conversation about whether the kingdom's current command structure was capable of managing a 3-front war. The conversation was not seditious. It was not organized. It was the specific kind of conversation that happened in administrative communities when a significant event forced people to recalibrate their assessment of who was capable of what. The assessment being recalibrated. A 17-year-old minor frontier baron with a declared defective core, No formal military appointment and no royal sanction, had just won the most significant battle in 15 years with a volunteer force, smaller by a factor of 2, against a professional Ironmark campaign army. The capital's administrative community was asking, what exactly is the standard of competence we should be expecting from the people who have formal appointments? He sat with this for a long time. He had not planned for the battle to be uncontainable. He had known it would be significant. He had not fully calculated how significant the visibility would be. The managed incompetence of the Royal Army's Northern Command had not been public knowledge. It had been documented in Commission intelligence and known to Aldenvane's network and to Halvor's private assessment. After Ashenvale, the comparison between the Frontier Auxiliary's outcome and the Royal Army's 14 months of managed failure was visible to anyone who read the dispatch. Seraphine's letter arrived on the 15th day after the battle. It was 6 pages, which was her full analytical voice. She wrote, "The capital's response to Ashenvale is doing 2 different things simultaneously. The first is what you expected: political attention, noble council recalibration, commission interest, the beginning of a shift in which faction holds the reasonable competence ground in the public record. The second is something you may not have fully anticipated. The King's Court is silent. Not dismissive. Not contesting. Silent." He read this word. Silent. She wrote, "In 3 years of working with the capital's political community, I have learned that the dangerous response from a political actor under threat is not the loud response. The loud response is reactive. It expends resources on the reactive defense. The silent response is preparatory. They're thinking about what to do." She wrote, "The Wartime Advisory Council is in the formal record. The Commission's case is in the formal record. The Noble Council has now heard the Frontier's intelligence picture and the Ashenvale outcome in the same session. The King's Court will eventually decide to act on this. When they do, the action will not be minor." She wrote, "I am telling you this not to alarm you, but because you will need to have thought about what you do when the action comes. I have my analysis. I would like to compare it with yours when you return." She wrote at the end, in the same small distinct line she used for things that mattered separately from the analysis, "Come back soon. There is more work." He set the letter down. The capital was silent in the dangerous way. The battle had won the Northern Front's immediate crisis. The battle had also made him visible to the people who had been managing the crisis from the other direction, and they were now deciding what to do about what they had seen. He was 17. He was the commanding officer of the Eastern Frontier, the head of a formal military coalition, the builder of a 9-year intelligence network, the coordinating presence behind a wartime advisory council that was now in the official legal record. He had just won the most significant battle in 15 years. He had also never been less invisible. He wrote in the private document, "The silence is the preparatory silence. She's right about what it means. The next action will not be minor." He stopped. He wrote, "I have always known this was coming. The work I've been doing for 8 years was never going to stay invisible indefinitely. Visibility was always the end state. The question was whether it came before or after the structures were in place to support it." He stopped again. He wrote, "The structures are in place. The record exists. I am not afraid of visibility." He closed the document. He gave the command to begin the march south 2 days later. The force returned to the Eastern Frontier in 5 days. He rode into the barony yard on a May afternoon with the eye running its ambient radius and the specific weight of the frontier settling around him the way it always did when he returned to it. Gareth was in the yard. He looked at Kael from across the yard the way he always looked at him when he returned from something that had required everything, with the expression of someone confirming a fact they had already assessed. He said, "Across the yard, Frontier held. South was quiet." Kael said, "Good." Gareth said, "The kingdom noticed." Kael said, "I know." Gareth said nothing further. He went back to the training yard. Seraphine was in the study. She looked up when he came through the door. She said, "You read my letter?" He said, "Yes." She said, "And?" He said, "The capital is deciding what to do about what they saw. The silence is preparatory." He sat down at the main table. "You said you have an analysis. I have one too. Let's compare them." She looked at him for a moment. Then she picked up her pen. They began to work. The kingdom had noticed. The next thing was coming. He was ready for it.